good talk. Now I invite Dr. Satish Thomas, Professor and HOD, Believers Church Medical College, Tiruvalla, for his talk on abduction, gaining perspective on life through the eyes. Dr. Satish.
Yeah, so I'm going to warn you that this will be a talk that's quite different from what we are used to. It'll be more of a philosophical talk, but from a scientific perspective. So I've titled it as Abduction. I'm a pediatric ophthalmologist and a strabismologist. So we know about abduction that is there, but there is also a philosophical method called abduction, and that's how I'm combining the two. So in this session on ophthalmology 360 degrees, what I'll be focusing on is, we are not just ophthalmologists, isn't it? Some of us are, so while being an ophthalmologist, we are a physician, we might be surgeons, we are teachers, we are human beings, we live life, we have our own philosophies. So how do we integrate all of this? Whichever subject we are studying, apart from the discipline that we are studying, we would, what's the progression of that? The progression of any subject that we study is ultimately into a philosophy. From undergraduation, we progress to post-graduation. And finally, at the end of it, whatever discipline it is, the final step is a PhD. And a PhD is a doctor of philosophy. So that's the natural progression of any discipline, where you integrate the different disciplines into one philosophy. The purpose of education is both knowledge and wisdom. In knowledge, when I say knowledge, what I mean is we acquire information. Whereas wisdom is what do you do with that information? And so that is something that we would automatically be doing as we grow and progress in any discipline. And as I told you, in philosophy, there are these different methods of analysis. Deduction is from one big premise, then how, if this is so, then how does that apply to a particular situation? You deduce it. Induction is just the reverse. If this is the truth that we see in one area, then what bigger rule do you make out of that? That is induction. And abduction is sideways. So when I teach, sometimes I do a lot of this abduction. If this is what we see in this, then what does it mean for the larger area of life? And that's what I'm trying to introduce here in this talk. As we know, the eye is just a mirror of the body. And we see through our eyes and not just with our eyes. Often, the person who uses the eye becomes very important. There is this book that I came across by a writer. He was a famous writer who then had ARMD towards the later stages of his life. And as he was losing his eyesight, he came out with this book titled Twilight, Losing Sight and Gaining Insight. So in this talk, I'll be using two examples as a pediatric ophthalmologist on illustrating how this applies. One is amblyopia of the heart, and another is on stereoscopic vision. I won't have time to cover on worldviews. I think you've all heard about this person called Bertrand Russell. He was a mathematician, a literature person, and he even won the Nobel Prize in Literature. He was a philosopher too. Once he was asked in an interview, he did not believe in God. He was an atheist. In an interview, the correspondent asked him, "Sir, what if you die and go to heaven and you meet God? What will be your question to him?" A very ironic question, no, to a person who doesn't believe in God. And what Bertrand Russell said was that if I encounter such a situation, then I will tell God that God, you never gave me enough evidence to believe in you. And that's why I did not believe in you. So that's one perspective. On the other hand, there is this person called Saul of Tarsus. I came to know about him. He's there in the Bible. There's a letter to Romans. And this is what Saul or Paul writes there. The wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of men who suppress the truth by their wickedness, since what may be known about God is plain to them. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, His eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that men are without excuse. So Bertrand Russell says God never gave him enough evidence. This person says there is enough and more evidence, but still people don't see because they don't want to see. Diametrically opposite views. Who is right? This is where sometimes our pediatric ophthalmology can come to the aid. We all know about suppression and amblyopia. So on the left-hand side of the diagram, I don't have a pointer here, you see how the normal vision works, where the two eyes see two images of the same object, two identical images because they see the same, and then the brain fuses them into one. Now, when the eyes are misaligned, as in strabismus, then if you see these two images which are not being able to fuse into one, it becomes very difficult. Diplopia and confusion is the natural consequence of misalignment of the eyes. And that's a very uncomfortable situation to live with. What does the brain do? It suppresses one image so that life becomes more comfortable to avoid diplopia and confusion. And if it's always one image that is being suppressed, finally, as you can see on the left-hand side, finally that image just disappears. In other words, that eye loses vision. That is amblyopia. So constant suppression of one blurred image can lead to loss of vision. This is exactly what happens with conscience. When we do something wrong, at first there is a conscience prick. We continue to do that and then we do not recognize it. Our input, the stimulus shapes the neuronal networks. And so that's how it is important in developing character and even our destiny. This famous quote, sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap character. Sow character, reap destiny. Quickly coming to stereoscopic vision, I know I'm running out of time. Stereoscopic vision is basically holding two different images simultaneously. We all know that there is the horopter. Horopter is the line where, in physical space, where the object is seen singly as long as it lies on the horopter. On either side of the horopter, you have what is called the Panem's fusional zone, where you can see it singly, but it is seen in depth, in three-dimensional perception. Beyond that, it will be seen as double, and there will be diplopia. So what enables us to see stereoscopically is that the right eye and the left eye see slightly different images, but not too different that they are opposite. So that is what enables us to see in 3 dimensions. If they see exactly the same image, then there will be no stereopsis. And this again helps us in our understanding of life. How do you distinguish between this dilemma of free will and determinism? Is everything in life, do we have free will to choose everything in life, or is it determined? Now these are again two diametrically opposite views. The logician would say that these two cannot exist together. Whereas the mystic, the one who allows for mystery in his life, realizes that both these are true. And all of us know that they are true in life. The lunatic, the madman, has his reason intact, but he is out of touch with reality. And the mystic leaves room for mystery. So sometimes reality can extend beyond the physical into areas that cannot be simply perceived by sight or our senses alone. So these are some of the things that we can learn from our vision alone into life. So I think I'll stop there because my time's up. Thank you for your
Dr.
patience.
Satish. That was indeed a thought-provoking talk. You took us into realms far deeper than ophthalmology. Thank you once more, Dr.